Hello, 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 friends, family. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's your friend Jamil Damji here, Astro Flipper, real estate investor. But today we're not talking real estate, guys. We're not talking anything to do with wholesaling houses. In fact, I have with me one of my very, very special friends, a mentor of mine, not just a friend, guys, a friend and mentor. Somebody that I have actually hired in the past, continue to work with. Matthew Ferry has been an amazing spiritual coach, meditation coach, mindset expert, the man who can help you quiet the monkey in your mind. In fact, he has coined a term called the drunk monkey, that little voice in our head that gears us towards surviving, that gears us towards really just doing those things in our life that sometimes we look at ourselves after the fact and say, what the heck just happened there? How did I get myself into this crazy situation with this crazy moment, and now I'm going through this crazy consequence? And just to give you guys a little bit of history on Matthew, he's been in this space for 30 years. He comes from the Ferry line of amazing real estate coaches. So if anyone's familiar with Mike Ferry or Tom Ferry, that's his dad and brother. And Matthew Ferry comes from that lineage. Yep, he is what we
Team
call
Ferry.
the black sheep in the Ferry family because he looks at entrepreneurship and life from a completely different perspective. It's not about being in the meat grinder and pushing your way and elbowing your way through the crowd. It's about going into it with a state of being in flow. And I can tell you guys that I had no understanding of what this meant until I met Matthew. It has been a journey. And I started working with Matthew in 2018, where I became a paying member of his Ignite Mastermind. And it was an incredible experience, guys. I met not only like-minded, high conscious individuals, but I got to see where in my life I was throwing myself out of my flow, how I was getting in my own way, the things that I would do on a day-to-day basis that would degrade me and spiral me into a situation where I couldn't recognize who I was anymore, or what I was doing and how I got there. And I kept finding myself in these spaces of great growth and explosive awesomeness. And then something would happen and I right off the edge. And I couldn't understand it. It's like, I have money. I have amazing family. I have fantastic friends. I'm getting the goals I want in life to happen. Yet I still keep finding myself in these dumb, terrible, mentally created situations. Let me put it that way. And it wasn't until I got an understanding of Matthew's rapid enlightenment process that I was truly inspired to make a change in my life. So enough of me beacon. Matthew Ferry, welcome, my friend, my brother. I love you so much. How are you today?
My brother from another mother, thank you for having me. I am actually really good today. And I think it's important for our viewer friend to know that today is probably a turning point, and that it's very possible that from this moment on, everything in your life is about to change for the better. And I really hope that you'll listen to the conversation with Jamil and I from that context, from that perspective, because the enlightened goal setting process is an absolute game changer. And I'm psyched for you and I to talk about that with everybody today.
So Matthew, enlightened goal setting process. First off, I want to just create an opportunity for us to really understand the difference between enlightened goal setting and goal setting, right? Because we all know as entrepreneurs, if we don't set goals, if we don't have benchmarks of what we're trying to achieve, we really don't have a concept of what we're working towards. And if we don't have a concept of what we're working towards, we have no direction. And if we have no direction, we don't feel that we can take a step. And if we don't take a step, we're stuck. And when we're stuck, we suck.
When we're stuck, we suck. That is true. Enlightened goal setting versus traditional goal setting. I've been a goal setter my whole life. My lineage goes all the way back to a man named Napoleon Hill. Napoleon Hill inspired a man named Earl Nightingale. Earl Nightingale was my father's mentor. My father was my mentor. At 5 years old, Earl Nightingale had me on his lap and taught me how to set my first goal. And that was the beginning of a lifelong process for me of being a creator of the life that I wanted to live. And early on, I started to experience what you were talking about. I was achieving and accomplishing. In my 20s and 30s, I rose to the top of the food chain. I had the incredible family, the luxury house, the boat, the car, going on killer trips. I was living the life. And yet I had this hole inside of me, this constant nagging feeling like I'm not there yet. I'm a fraud. If people really found out what was going on, I'd be in trouble. It'd be embarrassing. There was this constant nagging that I had that this isn't it. And about 10 years ago, it gelled for me. My mind went quiet back in 2006, meaning I went from the constant nagging and chatter and insanity of the drunk monkey in my head to all of a sudden, I had this intense quieting and I started to see things in a whole new way. But it took a while for me to really understand how to leverage this. And about 10 years ago, it clicked in. And I started to realize that the issue with traditional goal setting is that it creates more of the same, more survival, more I have to get ahead, more there's not enough, more, just creates more. And that feeling of needing more is at the heart of dissatisfaction. So to say it distinctly, a traditional goal setting process causes you to go into a state of this isn't it, even when you achieve it. But let's be honest. I mean, most people don't achieve their goals, Jamil.
True.
So most people, they start in the process of achieving their goals and they lose the energy, they lose steam, they get distracted and all of that. That is also this survival state, getting in there and just throwing them off track. When I began to work with people in recognizing that all is well in the world. In other words, enlightenment is just a rational, modern point of view about the state of the world. And in a rational, modern point of view, our listener is not in a survival state. They don't need really anything. They have most of everything that they need right now. They're trying to create. They're trying to
have that, right? Most of us in the United States have that.
We're in a good spot in the United States. And the truth is, around the world, there cultures and countries are rising around the world. It's happening right now. And when you begin to take on this more modern and updated perspective that all is well, everything changes. All of a sudden, you are inspired and pulled towards goals that are interesting to you, not goals that will hopefully someday change your life to make it better, which of course, the moment you get there, you realize that didn't do it. Jamil, you are my client, and I suspect that your listeners and viewers are my client. I coach people who are billionaires, who are running international corporations, who are creating game-changing processes in the world. They climb to the top of the mountain and they literally say to themselves, really? This is it? Where's my peace of mind? Where's my certainty? Where's my confidence? I still have fear, uncertainty, and doubt. What the FUD?
It's real. And I can't stress enough, guys. When I came to Matthew, actually, when I became Matthew's client, I want to give you guys a balance sheet so that you guys can understand. And I'm not talking just monetary. I'm going to just talk about life. Okay. I had a couple $1 million in the bank. I had 2 thriving businesses. I had, great relationship with the mother of my child, great relationship with my wife, great relationship with my the other daughter. And here I was completely alone, drinking too much, feeling desperate, feeling despair, feeling like, is this it? Is this what it feels like to have climbed the mountain? Is this what it feels like to have gotten the goal? Has anything changed? And so what I started doing was really diving into my meditation practice. A lot of folks know that have been following me. You guys know that I've been meditating for about 7 years now. So that's pre-Matthew, right? I came to Matthew. I'd been meditating for years before I met him. I don't know that I had been meditating in a as deep a way once I met Matthew. Things changed for me, but prior to that, I was doing the work. I was doing the practice, right? Even with a hangover, I was doing the practice, still trying, right? And here I was with all the things, and a level of satisfaction in life and fulfillment that was completely hollow and empty. And that is a sad place. It's a dangerous place to be in, guys, because you guys can see individuals like Robin Williams. You see individuals like Anthony Bourdain who have the things, who get the things, right? The house, all of the things on paper, the balance sheet looks, you're in the black, you're doing great, guys. And in this race of life, you're at the peak of the mountain. And then you realize this mountaintop stinks like poop. And nobody is my real friend. Everybody wants something from me. I just can't. I just don't know what I've done. How did I get here and why am I here? So I bought Matthew's book, The Quiet Mind, Epic Life, right there. That book, guys, was life-changing for me. I don't have the copy because as Matthew had shown me and taught me in the mastermind, you always have to give people the gift. And giving the gift means you have to share. You have to go give people what you're looking for in life. And so I gave that book, my copy, away to somebody, hoping that their life will change. And guess what? That individual is now in Matthew's mastermind, changing the way that his whole situation is going. And so the gift was given, right? And so
and he's rocking.
He's rocking. He's amazing.
Yeah.
He's a fantastic, fantastic friend. And I've seen so many changes in him. But the whole concept of quieting the mind, and how does that affect our goals, Matthew?
It's distinct. So first of all, I want to let everybody know, you don't need to buy my book. I've come to Jamil and said, let me give everybody a copy of my Enlightened Goal Setting workbook. And he has a copy of it right there.
Yep.
The Enlightened Goal Setting workbook is my gift to you, and it is hardcore. Yes. This is the real deal. There's no fluff in here. Yep. And I'm going to do a subsequent free workshop as well. And so Jamil is going to put the link to the free workshop into the comments for you, so that you can get yourself signed up, and then you'll get the workbook right along with it. So I want you to know that the objective here is actually to give the gift to you, and to make sure that we don't just come on here and get you all frothy. We actually deliver the goods. Let's talk about a quiet mind and achieving your goals. Underneath all of our mind chatter is a set of aspects of our consciousness. I don't know exactly how to describe what consciousness is, nor does science, but there are aspects of our consciousness that are winning iterations of survival. So greed is a winning survival strategy. Holding grudges is a winning survival strategy. It has evolved over time. Hatred, victim, following weird illogical rules, being lazy. These are all things that resistance. These are things that underpin our thoughts. And when you set goals from that perspective, from the perspective of greed, grudge, hatred, victim, illogical rules, being humble, being a traitor, hiding who you really are, hoping people think that you're something that you're not, pride. When you set goals in that way, either A, you don't have the energy to achieve them, which is for most people, or B, you fight and grind your way through it until you get there. And then when you get there, you realize all of that stuff is still there. You're still in survival. It didn't accomplish the peace and the joy and the happiness that you thought it would. When you work from an enlightened perspective, you begin to take on the framework that all is well in the world. And really what you want is what I call your most cherished experience. And your most cherished experience, that's something I'm going to take you through in the workbook and in the workshop. I'm going to actually do my damnedest to make sure that you know exactly what your most cherished experience is, because when you identify what your most cherished experience is, and then you set your goals from that framework, the energy inside of you explodes. You become joyous. You get pulled into having those goals be achieved, not because they have to be. And that's the key. Have to, need to, must, and should. Those are all survival imperatives. And if you have to, need to, must, or should in your goals, the possibility of you achieving them is really low. And then when you do grind it out hard enough to achieve them, you get there and you are deeply dissatisfied and wondering, what the hell is wrong with me? And you feel like a fraud. It's brutal. It is brutal.
Have to, need to,
must and should.
Must and should. Had to, need to, must and should. Guys, just let that sink in for a moment. How many of you guys think to yourself, I have to do 10 deals this month? I should be a millionaire by now. I must find more opportunities to get business.
Yep.
If this is how your mind, and again, there's not a right or wrong here, guys. There is a way of looking at things and a different way of looking at things. That's it. It's another thing I learned when working with Matthew is that there's not a right, there's not a wrong. There's 7 billion ways. There's 7 billion ways, but there have been people that have come to our experience in life that have understood pathways that lead to less suffering, that lead to less suffering in life, that lead to less mental, emotional, and personal suffering. And it is words like have to, need to, must, and should that create all of those suffering. Why? Because it takes you out of being in the present moment and sticks you in the past, or it catapults you into an imaginary future. And that is where the majority of what we do to ourselves, the self. Imagine if you walk down the street and you saw somebody hitting themselves in the face. Just hitting themselves in the face, right? You would literally either drive by them and think, that's a crazy person. And you might feel bad about them. You might pray for them. You might, offer them something. You might just ignore them and keep going. And I'm glad that you didn't have an encounter with that person. But the fact is that imagine watching somebody on the street corner punching themselves in the face. Have to, must, should, need to is essentially punching yourself in the face. It's punching yourself in the face.
And you punch yourself in the face enough to get the job done. It's like, I'm going to grind and force and push, and I'm going to discipline myself. I'm going to make it happen. And all of those things are actually extremely valuable tactics. But what happens when you're able to discipline yourself because you are at peace? It's a complete transformation. The moment you go into a goal setting process in which you are at peace with the goals that you've set for yourself, there's nothing, you don't need to change anything. The moment you get there, your mind goes quiet, and all of a sudden your creativity and your resourcefulness expands. There's all these things, Jamil, that your listener could be doing right now to get more deals, but they can't see it because they're being constricted and limited by these survival perspectives. And when you engage enlightened perspectives, which is what the enlightened goal setting process is all about, it expands your point of view. You become more creative. You're better at problem solving. You think of new out-of-the-box ways to get things done. You're more resourceful and energized. Let's give them a couple of things that they can do immediately to start to get a sense of their most cherished experience. Can we do that?
Let's please. Yes.
Here's what I think that I would love our listener to do. One, will you just pick a goal right now? Pick a goal that you want to accomplish, let's say by the end of this year.
I'm doing it too.
All right, cool. Pick a goal that you want to accomplish by the end of this year. And then what I want you to notice is start with an assessment. Is there any have to, need to, must, or should in there? So why do you have to do that? Answer that question. Why must you do it? Is there something about this that you should do? And that's why you have this goal. I should A, B, C, D, E. Or I must. You start by doing that assessment. You begin to realize, OMG, I have accidentally concluded that if I don't get this goal done, if I don't change my life, then my life is no good now. It's like, if I don't achieve that goal out there, then I have to deal with the life that I have. And what we're realizing is that the life that I have is something I disagree with. I don't fully appreciate and honor the life I have. So I want to change it by getting more deals. I want to change it by getting more passive income. I want to change it by being a better investor. I want whatever that need to change is actually ensures that you'll either A, not achieve the goal because you won't have the energy to do it, or B, when you achieve it, you'll be dissatisfied and feel like, God, what happened? So then what do? The next thing you do is you start to ask yourself a series of questions. Now, I'm not going to do the full questioning process because it's a little too intense for this format, but let's just do a basic version. So you take that goal and you start to ask yourself, what's important about that goal? And then you write down what your answer is. Now, I'm gonna give it to our listener in a way that they can actually start to play with it right now. You literally just ask that question. What's important about? Then you write down the answer. What's important about achieving that goal? You write down the answer. Then you say, well, what's important about that answer? And then you get a little more depth in your answer. And then you say, well, what's important about that? And then you get a little more depth. And then what's important about that? You just keep asking what's important about it until you get to a place where you're like, I just want to be happy, or I just want to feel good, or I want to be empowered, or I want to have more adventure in my life. I want to be celebrated, right? But there's a experiential aspect, right? So you might say, I want to make $200,000 by the end of the year. Well, what's important about that? Well, I want to make sure that my family is going to be okay. Fantastic. Survival motive. Can you hear that? I want to make sure my family is going to be okay. Well, what's important about making sure your family is going to be okay? Well, I had parents who were really crappy at making money, and we really suffered when we were kids, and I don't want to do that to my family. Great. What's important about that for you? What's important about essentially not doing that, doing what happened to you and your kids to you, right? I mean, do what happened to you to your kids. What's important about that? I don't want to be a loser. By the way, that's a big one for a lot of top people. I don't want to be a loser. I don't want to be a fraud. I don't want to be a weakling. I don't want to be in the bottom. I don't want to be lower than people. And then you say, well, what's important about that? I want people to know that I'm really someone. Well, what's important about that? I just want to be like happy. I just want to be like, want people to know that I'm valuable and that I'm doing something. Well, what's important about that? And you just keep going until you get to some place where you just go like, it'll make me feel like I'm okay. And then we go, bingo, right there. That's your thing. Now, it'll make me feel like I'm okay. I'll have peace of mind. I'll experience more joy. Life will be more fun, right? There's a huge variety of what these experiential terms are, but it really comes down to this. Human beings are trying to have an experience. You don't want the goal. You want what you think the goal will create for you in your experience. And if you go for the goal, but you don't go for the experience, then you'll get the goal and you won't get the experience. But if you know what your experience is, you can begin right now to have that experience, which will massively accelerate your chutzpah, your energy, your courage, your personal power. and the probability of you achieving your goal goes way up. It's really powerful. Those are 2 steps in the enlightened goal setting process. I hope that our listener will come and join us over there and get in on that workshop. We'll give you that workbook for free. Let's get you going on this now. Jamil wants you to be empowered the way he was empowered. And listen, the guy was already a badass, but that's who I work with. I work with badasses who are like, wait a second, badass didn't work.
Yeah. It's real. I mean, honestly, it's such a real thing because look, I want to kind of frame this for people so that in the timeline of my life, maybe people can start to, if you've been following me for a while, you guys will see the progression here. I meet Matthew, like I said, 2018. I hadn't created a single Facebook ad. I hadn't started, astro flipping hadn't done a thing. It wasn't a thing. There was no TV show. None of this had happened. I get to Matthew's mastermind and go through some of these processes with him, and I learn very, very quickly that my biggest issue, or the fundamental misconception, as Matthew terms it, my fundamental misconception about myself, misperception about myself, was that I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy of a good life. I'm not worthy of your love. I'm not worthy of my own love. I'm not worthy of my dad's love. I'm not worthy of this. I'm not worthy of that. And that's a terrible, terrible thing to understand, that all of your decisions or your goals or your energy is being energized by or being motivated by. It's being motivated by a lie. Motivated by a lie of being unworthy, right? And so all of the actions that I would take towards getting my goal were predicated upon a lie. And when you predicate action on a lie, the result can never be satisfaction. How could it be? Right? And so that is a part of what, and I like, the hairs on my body are standing up right now, and there's a lot of hairs, guys. So, I'm like literally just, remembering and thinking about where that took me. So here I am with Matthew peeling back the banana, right? Peeling back the banana. And I'm starting to realize that, holy crap, I'm just this big soft mess in the middle. Right? I'm this big soft mess in the middle, and I don't know what's happening. And I don't know what's happening with me, and I don't know what's happening with myself, and I'm like just trying to figure stuff out. And because I can't figure stuff out, because money hasn't done it, because booze hasn't done it, because sex hasn't done it, because children haven't done it, so legacy isn't doing it, building a company hasn't doing it, achievement hasn't done it, I'm still miserable. What is wrong with me? I peel back the banana and I start to understand that there's not a lot wrong with me at all. It fundamentally, in the core of me, I'm a divine being like the rest of you. Every one of you guys is another thing that Matthew had made me really understand, is that we walk through life deciding who we're better than and who's better than us. All the time. You meet somebody, as soon as you meet them, the second you meet them, you're looking at them and you're like, am I better than? Is my status higher than this person or lower than this person? Who am I to this person? And who is this person to me? Are they worth my time? Are they not worth my time? And you make these judgments subconsciously, and then you either skate and move along and decide this person's not for you. And that person could have been holding the key to so many of the things that you need in life to occur, but you make a judgment that this person's not worth your time, and you just skate. Meanwhile, they're holding the keys to your kingdom, because remember, everything that you want and need in life will find its way to you through these people, through beings, because your source wants you to actualize, wants you to be who you are meant to be, and it can only use life around you to get you there, right?
That's all there is.
anyways, fast forward, you guys had seen I had a renaissance in my mind, right? I had a renaissance in my behavior and in my my judgments of myself. For those of you who had even watched my first Facebook ad, it's me with my shirt off, basically painted blue, jiggling on my table, right? And I'm going to let you all into a little secret about myself, that I am so frightened of taking my shirt off, so much so that I actually made my wife, and I lied to my wife and her whole family for, 7-8 years, that I hated taking vacations near the water because I couldn't swim. When in actuality, I didn't want to take my shirt off because I'm fat. And so here I am creating this whole story of why I don't want to enjoy these beautiful beaches and sunsets and opportunities to connect with my in-laws because of a problem I have with myself. So what do? It's the first thing I do. I say, you know what? I have to honor myself and have to be me in all of the curves and edges, right? You got to do it. You got to do it. And if I can find my way into that in a way that makes me comfortable or uncomfortable, but still live in it, then I will break through and hopefully get past whatever this barrier of unworthiness is. And lo and behold, guys, that shit went bananas. And that upon that, and then the next, and then the next, and I just kept peeling back. Okay, well, what's the other? Where's another fear? Where's another untruth? Where's another piece of crap lie that I'm telling myself? Matthew, on page 14 of your workbook, you talk about how when we get a goal, we're dissatisfied with that goal.
Yep.
We set them and we achieve them, and we set them and we achieve them, and then we just can't be satisfied with the results.
Yep.
Can you talk on that a little bit and as to how that happens and why?
You betcha. Each of us came in with a set of hereditary survival motives. And those motives are no longer effective in the day and age that we're living in. Our viewer right now is not in a survival situation. They're not watching this because they're in survival. They're watching this because they are thriving. Thriving and enlightened are their cousins. They're the same family. When you are in an enlightened state, you know that all is well. When you know that all is well, your ability to thrive is amazing. But when you are being driven by this unconscious desire to survive, live better, be better than someone, have pride, gather up more stuff, drive the better car, prove to everyone that you are somebody. When you're driven by those motives and those are driving your goals, it leads you to dissatisfaction, because wherever you go, you're still there.
Yeah, sure you are.
You're still there. So now you're in your roles feeling like shit. My clients, especially when I'm first talking to them, my clients will call me from their private jet and they'll be like sad and lonely and miserable. I'm like, you're living at the top of the food chain. You're heading out to your chalet in Switzerland. What? What's going on? I'll tell you what's going on. What's going on is they're still operating from the fundamental misperception that you talked about. And their goals didn't, at least until I helped them, their goals didn't have the quality of going after your most cherished experience. Because when you transform every one of your goals in every one of the categories, and we're going to do that on the workshop. So make sure you click on the link that Jamil put into the chat there for the workshop that we're going to do, and download the workbook. This is all my gift to you. There's no strings attached. But when you go through the process and you apply your most cherished experience to each of the categories of your life, all of a sudden, so many of the things that you wanted before, you're like, what? Wow, why do I even want that? And you throw it out. And all of a sudden, your stress level starts to go down. Your anxiety level starts to go down. So many of the things that you wanted to go for before, you just tweak them ever so slightly. You're like, it's not like that exactly. It's more like this. And all of a sudden, you experience more delight, more joy, more fun, because you removed the underlying components that create goal grind and goal dissatisfaction. And those components are hidden motives to survive.
I've heard you say the term most cherished experience a few times. And I'd like to kind of, if you could, let's sprout that seed a little bit for everybody to understand what that means, because most cherished goal, I feel like I think there's going to be a lot of layers there. Some, people are just
goal is one thing, right?
Yeah.
But goal is different. This is not most cherished goal. In the end, Jamil, no goal matters.
Right.
You achieved all the goals and you felt empty and dissatisfied. No goal matters. But the experience that you want to have,
most cherished experience,
is where it's at.
Right.
What you are committed to experiencing turns out to be similar in almost every area, and everybody has their own variation on that. And it's going to be some kind of peace, joy, fun, satisfaction, love, connection, adventure, creation, creative, right? There's so many, and everybody has their own variation, and going through the process of discerning what that is makes such a big difference. And it's like what we talked about in the beginning. You just begin the simple version, like you're done with Matthew and Jamil. You don't want to dive in deeper. The simple version is just what's important about that. And you just do it over and over and over. What's important about that? What's important about that? What's important about that? What's important about that? You just keep going until you figure out, what are you really trying to accomplish here? And I promise you, it's not more money. I promise you, it's not look better. Jamil is blue and wiggling all of his fat all over and experiencing peace and joy and self-confidence. The fat is still the same. The situation is the same. The experience is different. And that's the promise of enlightened goal setting, is massive joy and satisfaction now, where you're living a life of purpose and meaning now. The perfect person for this, Jamil, is the entrepreneur, the CEO, the business leader, the top salesperson, someone who is in trading of some sort, a portfolio manager, that person who is in the top of their game, high stress situation, and wants to do that effectively in a state of peace and flow. That's the perfect person for this process.
That word flow gets used a lot. And I still feel like there's a huge misunderstanding of what it is. Would you mind expanding on that a little bit for us, Matthew?
I will expand on it only from my own experience and from the tens of thousands of coaching sessions that I've done with top performers. It is a state in which there is no thinking. Everything feels synchronous, like you're in a state of synchronicity. It's like you put your foot out and God, source, whatever that is, like puts a step underneath there. And you just keep doing that. You just keep putting your foot out, and just one after another after another. It's a state of luck and extreme resourcefulness. But the resourcefulness actually comes from the deep state of trust that you're in. So flow and trust, those things go hand in hand. And trust comes from an enlightened perspective that all is well.
Let's talk about that, because all is well is something that I had a hard time really struggling with, right? I was struggling with all is well, because you can look at the news, you see what's happening in Afghanistan, and you can see these bodies flying off a plane that's trying to take off. And then you look at that circumstance and you're like, that is bullshit. That is terrible. That is hard. But on some level, all is well. You can look at getting sick, having cancer, going through the pain of treatment, and facing your mortality, and your family may lose you, and all of these things, right? And that feels terrible, but at some level, all is well. How does that?
Well, it's a very big conversation, obviously, and it's something that I'm committed to working with people on in my Ignite Mastermind and getting them there. And I can very successfully get people there in about 9 months. But the short form is something like this. Your life in the end is an expression of nature. And nature is some kind of, we have a modern, well-informed outlook, which is what enlightenment is. Then we look and we see that science is showing us that everything in the world, everything we experience at the most base level is some kind of particle or wave or some variation on that is self-organizing into everything that we see, experience, we are. Every single part of reality is some background field of energy and information organizing itself into everything that we are. Even our self-importance, even our need to be alive, even our desire to do well. Every bit of that can't be explained by anything other than there's something that is organizing itself in the background that is creating that experience. When you begin to get connected to that very modern and well-informed way of looking at the world, all of a sudden you realize, wow, none of it really matters. And that is unbelievably confronting and simultaneously the most freeing state of your entire existence, because if nothing matters, you can choose what matters. If nothing matters, none of your survival imperatives are relevant, valuable, or important. And as soon as you get there, your freaking creativity goes berserk, goes bananas. You're like, what do I want to do? Right? All of a sudden, it's like kid in a candy store. Anything is on the table. It's all possible. What do I want to do? It's crazy, Jamil. Well, I don't have to explain. You are literally an example of what I'm talking about.
I deal with it daily. I deal with it daily. And here's another thing I want to share with the folks that are tuning in. And thank you guys all. First off, can we just give Matthew some love? Can everybody do me a favor right now and send love to Matthew? Like this video, share it on your pages. How many of you feel that you wish there was somebody watching this with you that's in your life? How many of you right now are watching this saying, man, I really wish my sister was listening to this. I really wish my brother was listening to this. I really wish my wife or my friend. You know what? Don't wish. Stop freaking wishing, okay? Share it. Share this with them. Stop it. Just share it. Share. The wishes are bullshit.
That's how you learned about it, Jamil.
Yes, sir.
Somebody shared it with you.
Somebody shared it with me, and then I shared it, and then I shared it again. That's giving the gift. Share it, guys. Like this right now. Please like it, because as you like it, you're letting other people know you like it. They will watch. Someone somewhere might see this on your social media, and they may be having the worst freaking day of their life, and they'll get through this, and they'll be like, who are these two? And they'll watch, and maybe at the end of this, they might have some sense of, maybe things aren't as bad as I thought. Maybe all is well. Maybe all is well. As I was sitting there at the bottom of that canyon that I fell down in July of 2020. Yeah, it was 2020. July of 2020, I fell in that canyon in Malibu, and I snapped my ankle. And I was writhing in pain, and the sun was going down, and I was hiking, and I was all alone. And I had seen coyotes on my way into the canyon. And I'm thinking to myself, is this how it ends? Is this it? My news story? Blue Genie gets devoured by coyotes in canyon. Is that how, will people mistake my death for an Onion article?
Yep.
Is that how this goes? You know, meanwhile, I'm sitting there in the pain. The pain is just like shooting in my body in a way that I broken my neck, guys, and I had more pain in breaking my ankle than I ever did when I broke my neck. So I'm sitting there just screaming at the top of my lungs, hoping for a savior, somebody to come and grab me and help me out. And I'm coming to terms with the fact that the sun is coming down and I'm going to be in this canyon all night until 4 Australian guys had turned around in the canyon because they heard me screaming like a baby and came and lifted me out. And so as I'm sitting in there thinking, how is this all is well? How is that all is well? But guess what it was? It absolutely was that. I was warned on my way in that I was outmatched in that canyon, and then I was carried on my way out to prove to me, to show to me that there are always people listening, that if you put yourself in that situation and you believe that and you know that that's true, because it's, Matthew said, it's trust, right? You have to be and you have to know, and that is what allows you to have trust. And so in knowing that I get this help, I get carried out of this thing. And then, the 3 months after of pain that I had to go through in healing, I kept thinking to myself, why is this something that is benefiting me? Meanwhile, I realized that, oh my gosh, I've been at home. I'm at home and I've been with my family for the last 3 months for more time than I have been in the last 6 years. And this is wild. This is fun. This is relaxing. This is great. And I'm watching the world organize itself in a way through pain to a place where I was really benefiting from that experience of having more time with my family, to increase my joy, to do more meditating, to do more self-reflection, to peel back more of the onion. And
could we point to, for our listener, part of the methodology? And this is part of what we're going to do together in the Enlightened Goal Setting workshop as well, is that you were implementing a skill that you had been practicing called recontextualization. And
I learned that from you.
It's essentially the skill of describing the conditions and circumstances in a way that creates an empowering reality for you. And one of the fundamental recontextualizations is it's always going my way, even when it's not. Not because that's true, but because none of it is true. Nothing I know about the future is true. But the drunk monkey in my head is in a perpetual state of pretending that it's psychic and that it can predict the future. But what you start to learn as your mind goes quiet is that the drunk monkey is in the negative future prediction business. It only predicts negative futures, and negative futures are just as probable as positive futures. But it turns out that my mentor's mentor, my father's mentor, Earl Nightingale, showed us that you become what you think about. Now, it's not magical. It is just about adjusting the probabilities in your favor. That's it. And so by learning to contextualize effectively, you start to modify your own behavior. Let's just think about it like this. Jamil, when our ancestors believed that the world was flat, it modified their behavior. Even the bravest of them did not dare go out to the horizon and fall off the earth. So everybody stuck too close to the coastline. But then there was an update in the information. There was a contextual shift that occurred, and suddenly the world was learned to be round. And then the bravest among us, the people like you, the people like our listener, the adventurers, the risk takers, said, I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna see what's out there. They didn't need any new skills. They already had the right boat. They already had the supply. They already knew all the things they needed to know about sailing were already in place. The only thing that changed was their context. And suddenly they were going farther. They were getting more resources, having more opportunities, exploring new lands. The only thing that changed was the context.
Guys, you hear that, right? Let's look at this from the perspective of your real estate business. Let's do that. Let's just because you guys are here because you follow me because of real estate, and that's cool. And I want to relate it back to that so that you can understand how this is so damn applicable. So damn applicable.
It's where I learned it, Jamil, was in real estate.
Where he learned it, right? How, I mean, and it's so neat that that's how it works. But it's like, here you are, you have a limited perspective, and that limited perspective has now limited the behavior, the action, and maybe the lead generation. Maybe it's limiting the way that you're connecting with people. Maybe it's limiting the way that you're communicating with sellers. Maybe it's limiting the way that you're communicating with real estate agents. Maybe it's limiting your idea of what a real estate agent could do for you. Maybe it's limiting your idea of what you might be able to add to a seller's life by buying their home for cash. Maybe it's limiting your ability to see a new perspective or a new way of handling the circumstance because there's no equity. And maybe this is a seller finance or an owner finance situation. The limits are the reasons why you don't have the opportunities you're looking for, because those limits are self-imposed, and that perspective is what keeps you small. So what Matthew's talking about—
and the perspective is really a practice. You can practice a new perspective.
You practice a new perspective, and you allow yourself to see that new perspective is true and real, or not, whatever. But another thing I learned from Matthew is we're making shit up all the time. Why not make up stuff that serves you?
If you got to make things up, you might as well make things up that empower you and make you feel good.
Right?
And almost every limitation that you experience in your real estate business is something you made up. It's not provable. It's dogma. It's a fantasy that you have. So if you're going to make things up, you might as well make things up that empower you. I really want to encourage our viewer to click on the link, get themselves registered for my Enlightened Goal Setting workshop, get a copy of the Enlightened Goal Setting workbook, which is my gift to you when you come in. Let's get going on this. Let's do it.
Guys, we can't sleep on this because I'm saying it's so important for you. Just look, abandon real estate, abandon entrepreneurship. This is important for you in your life. This is important for the way that you operate, the way you vibrate in the world. It's important that you are elevating that state, that oscillation, that you are doing it from a higher way so that you can see a better vantage point. A quick example: I was ripped off for $300,000 in 2008. And it made my entire family homeless. And that person who stole that money from me, I held on to grudge, I held on to anger and hatred for them, and I chased them around with attorneys trying to get the money, and I was just so mad. Then I look back at that situation, which ended up being ripped off caused me to move to Los Angeles. Me being in Los Angeles caused me to take up comedy. Me taking up comedy provided me an opportunity to start buying real estate in Arizona. Me buying real estate in Arizona allowed me to reinvent myself in my real estate business and move me from California to Phoenix. Me moving from California to Phoenix is what allowed me the opportunity to meet my two business partners, Josiah and Hunter. And my sister, Josiah and Hunter, and I then form Keegley. That company then becomes a national franchise, which leads to a television deal, which leads to millions of dollars in the bank. And I think, was that $300,000 robbery a robbery or a gift? And the perspective is what's liberating, guys, because I can free myself of the grudge, the hatred, the anger, and I can understand that person in their low way at the time was doing the best that they could do for themselves and their family. That $300,000 robbery to him was a $300,000 gift that he needed in order to feed his kids and pay his bills. And yes, that put me in a spot, but it sent me down a trajectory that got me into a different way. This is what we're talking about, guys. Click on that link, have an understanding of what this all means. You got to sign up for this thing. We've got like 3 more minutes left here on YouTube. And I cannot stress it enough how important it is for you guys to just take this work to the next level. It was great that you were listening. It's been an amazing 57 minutes with you, Matthew, so far. But this isn't where it ends. This can't be where it ends for you guys. This is beginning. Like the beginning. This is the planting of the seed, right? So click on the link there, register for it, get the workbook, fill it out with him, go through this, do this work. Do this work. I can't stress it enough. Do this work and then see where you are in 2 years. See where you are in a year. Yeah. Do the work on yourself and see where you end up. It is, he says it's not magical. It's magical. You know why it's magical? Because you're tapping into your magic. You're tapping into your source. You're tapping into the divine spark of who you truly are. And when you are working from that place, you now can just be. And when you can just be, good shit happens. It does. It truly, truly does. Matthew, we've got like 2 more minutes here. What more can you share? What parting words? What wisdom can you leave us with?
Let me say this. It's not magic, but to the observer watching you in your life, it will seem like magic. They'll think to themselves, what the hell does that person have that I don't? And the answer is enlightened perspectives. Perspectives that assume that all is well. A perspective that says the source of life for me is the source of life for everyone and everything, that there's essentially some background field of energy and information that is self-organizing into everything that we are. And as soon as you connect into that, you get this idea like, all is well. And as soon as you know that all is well, you'll take bigger risks. You'll be more calculated in your risks. You'll be more creative in your risks. You'll be more expansive in the things that you will do. Enlightenment is the recognition that the source of life for you is the source of life for everyone and everything. It is a modern and rational, updated perspective about the reality that you're living. You're not in a survival situation. You're actually trying to thrive, but you're using outdated survival means, perspectives, behaviors, processes to try and experience this thriving situation, and they mismatch. They don't connect. This old way pulls you backwards, so you have to struggle harder to achieve your goals. Let's get them aligned so that it is easy, effortless, and enjoyable. And when I say easy, effortless, and enjoyable, that doesn't mean that there won't be struggle. It's just that you'll be struggling and you will be easy about it rather than struggling and resisting. I would love to help whomever is interested in taking this on. Let's do it. It's going to be fun.
I just can't recommend it enough, guys. I'll be doing it. I'll be there. I love you, Matthew. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamil.
It's a dream for me, man. When you get to work with your mentors together, when you get to take the things that they've taught you and then turn around and then one day you're in a position where you get to share things you've learned with other people so they learn. It's a wild feeling, guys. It is surreal. It's wild. It's beautiful. It's all of the things. It's life. It's life in its expression. It's God knocking on our door, telling us that God is always there, always with us, always watching, with the greatest sense of humor and the best storyteller, because his buttons are better than any other buttons in the world. So thank you guys all so much for tuning in. Make sure you download that link. Come to the workshop. It is going to be a life-changing situation for you. The Enlightened Goal Setting workbook, guys, a free gift from Matthew. If anything you got out of today, just take the free gift. Get the free gift. That's all you need. Just get the free gift. Do the work in the workbook. It's a lot, and it will help you. It will 1000% help you in your business. I appreciate you so much. Love you, Matthew.
Love you, brother. Thank you for that.